Hello, everyone. My name is Eddie, and I'll be doing my presentation called Different Cultural and Different Experiences Between a Filipino American and Chinese American Living in the United States. So, a brief introduction. California is the most populous state in the country with approximately 40 million people. Ethnic diversity excels in California with 3% multiracial, 1% Native American, 6% African American, 15% Asian Pacific Islander, and 36% white and 39% Latino. The majority of immigrants that come from these other countries are like from Mexico, China, and Taiwan, the Philippines, India, El Salvador, Korea, Guatemala, and Iran. So the reasoning and thesis statement that I would like to present to you is I had no idea how diverse the Asian or Pacific Islander community really is in the United States. I want to learn more about the Asian culture in California in particular by interviewing two different Asian/Pacific Islander ethnicities. I selected one male Filipino American and one female Chinese American. So for my thesis, I wanted to know about a Filipino American and Chinese American have similar or different cultural values and different experiences of living in the United States. So for the Filipino family dynamics, I interviewed a man named Dandy Santos, who was born on May 5th, 1972 in Manila, Philippines. He grew up with three brothers and three sisters, and in traditional Filipino, having a big family in their culture is thought to be a wonderful gift from God and is believed to bring great fortune. Children are also prized possessions in the parents' and house. Without children will make anyone lonely, they believe. A traditional patriarchy is followed by the men, in which they work every single day, and the women are meant to stay at home to look after the children. For Dandi, his mother and father raised and corrected their children and taught them no favoritism, respect, no racial discrimination, and no sexism. In a traditional Filipino family culture, parents have strict rules, discipline, expect child obedience, tough love, and uphold the family name. For a Chinese family dynamics, I interviewed Dr. Jennifer A. Yi, a professor from Cal State University of Fullerton. She was born in 1968 in Compton, California, and is the youngest of 7 children of Chinese immigrants. Her father worked 3 jobs and was the primary financial support of the family. Her father had no college education. Her mother raised and supported the children until she started working as a teacher in the States. Once both parents began to work, Dr. Yi saw that her siblings and grandmother began to raise her. In a traditional Chinese family and marriage, the men follow a patriarchy set of rules. Men must be the primary breadwinner of the family, and women must stay at home to look after the children. For Dr. Yi's family dynamic, it was a combination of both patriarchal and matriarchal system. Both of her parents were in charge of raising and disciplining their children, but also allowed other family members to correct the children. The parents taught her to develop strong work ethics and to always support the family during low or high times in life, plus the value of graduating from college with a degree. For Filipino and Chinese family dynamics, some similarities are that Dandy and Dr. Yi, both of their fathers, did practice patriarchy in the home and did financially support the family. Both fathers displayed that their wives do have power in their household. The women were both allowed to raise their children, make their own decisions, and express their own teachings to their children. For family support and being community-minded is at the heart of both Chinese and Filipino ethnicities. Also, Chinese and Filipino families don't want their children to be selfish, but they want their children to be supported of their family members no matter what happens in life. Plus, in Chinese and Filipino parents instilled in their children to develop a strong work mentality. Some differences are that Dandy never questioned his parents' teachings and always did what he was told to do. His obedience to his parents followed traditional Filipino norms in the family. For Dr. Yi, as a child, she didn't follow the traditional Chinese norm of being submissive to her parents' teachings. She would at times not obey and question her parents' teachings. For Filipino and Chinese family differences, a Filipino culture believes that children are important for happiness within the household The children are also valuable to parents because they hope that their children will take care of them when they get older. For Filipino men, it is also a symbol how masculinity is demonstrated in society by showing how many children a Filipino man can produce, and the same goes for fertile Filipino women. Large families are vastly supported. For Dr. Yi, one time she visited China in 2016 and she learned about the China's One China policy, in which the Chinese government started a program in the late 1970s with the objective of reducing the number of children and forcing Chinese couples to have only one child per household. For couples who didn't obey the policy, they were met with sanctions within it to decrease their wages, to have forced abortions, and women's sterilizations. In this policy, it also demonstrates that Chinese boys are favored over girls, and it leads to aborting the female child, placing the child in an orphanage, or abandoning the girl in the streets. For Chinese American family culture values, its girls don't hinder the couple's decision to have a child, and that is a major difference between a traditional Chinese culture and an American family dynamic. For the workplace and life experience differences, Dandy has a bachelor's degree in business management and experiences no racial discrimination or stereotypes. Dandy receives the same wages and benefits as his coworkers. As for Dr. Yi, she has experienced racial stereotypes in public, like appearances for her eyes, racial slurs like ching chong in the public. Also, working in the educational field, she has encountered sexism, wage differences, and the stereotypes of all Asian women are submissive. She also had experience in the United States when one time she met a US-Korean war veteran that one time he used a stereotype that all Asian women are erotic, exotic, and sex objects based on his experience in Korea. Another key feature is the pandemic. Gandhi hasn't experienced any racial attacks or toward his family. He is also appalled over the racism and believes you just need to roll with the punches. For Dr. Yi, she believes that the Americans don't realize that Asian Americans have faced racism throughout history. The model of white supremacy is what keeps ethnic minorities in their place, and to remind the public that ethnic minorities are to be blamed for the country's problems. And this is vital because President Trump fueled the fire for these racist attacks on Asian Americans. Dr. Yi believes that Asian racism has been tolerated and the government should retract their statements about their stereotype. Asian Americans should take a stand against racism and end this way of thinking forever, and that is the main belief of Dr. Yi. Also, religion plays a major factor. Gandhi was raised to be Catholic by his parents and still practice it today. In the Philippines, about 86% of the population are Roman Catholic. Gandhi strongly believes in the church and his teachings. Currently, he says that older Filipino generations do not tolerate the LGBTQ community, but the younger generation does. For China, it has about 12 million Catholics. Dr. Yi was raised Catholic and went to Catholic school from kindergarten to high school. She values what the church taught her about helping others in the community and empowering the people. She's separated from the church due to their view on the LGBTQ community and not accepting them. She switched to Christianity and goes to church still today. She loves the Christians that believe that they accept homosexuals and allows them to marry their own partner. For the conclusion, I found out that both interviewing a male Filipino American and a female Chinese American, they share similar or different cultural values and different experiences living in the United States. For instance, there's similarities in family structure, child upbringing, raised Catholic, supporting their family members, racism in public due to the pandemic, and strong work ethics. Differences are in which a Filipino American man doesn't experience racism, sexism, or wage differences in the workplace. For a female Chinese American, she does experience racism, sexism, wage gaps, stereotypes in the workplace, and has seen the effects of China's one-child policy. They also have a strong belief in the United States that they must raise their families with the same principles that their parents taught them as kids. And at the end of the day, both Chinese and Filipino cultures just want to live in peace and work to provide a better future for the children, as were taught by them. And my references, and thank you for listening.